So far, I've started my Sicilian tours, been running twice already, very successful. So we'll now move on also to other regions. But this evening we'll talk about Sicily. A little bit about me first. I was born and raised in Tuscany in the hills. This is pretty much the table in front of my house, and it looked that's like that pretty much every weekend, full of people, wine, and laugh. I've been in the tourism and hospitality industry for over 30 years, pretty much from the get-go. I've been on and off in the last 19 years working in various tour operator. So I know pretty much anything there is to know in the backgrounds. And it's been 45 years of fine food and wine. Okay, maybe not wine, let's say 30, 38 years of wine. But of course, growing up in Italy in the 80s, there wasn't an age limit for wine, so it was actually encouraged. Um, what inspired me to do these tours, particularly the slow food movement. I came across that when I went back to Italy to open my own restaurant, osteria, so it's a more low-key type of restaurant. Luckily, that fell through because working in restaurants is an extremely hard life. But I did pick up the passion for the slow food, which is pretty much the opposite of fast food, of course. So it's all about the quality of the ingredients, the sustainability, anything that is regional and to valorize the actual produce themselves and not just taking it as fuel. Now, this is the main course. Here we go. Sicilian Food Odyssey, 16 days of food and culture in Sicily. As you can tell here, we're starting in from Catania. We go around the whole island, and we even pop over to the Aeolian Island and with a visit to Stromboli. Our accommodation are not just somewhere to sleep. In fact, I've selected most of the hotels due to the history and link with the territory where they're based. First stop is Villa Favorita Relay in the Noto Valley. This is part of the Baroque triangle, which we'll talk about more later. The villa itself was set up in the 17th century by the barons of Di Lorenzo of Garnieri. It was built as a summer residence and is still today owned by the same family. The lovely Signora Corrada and the daughter Giulia are running now this beautiful farmhouse as a hotel, and they'll be the ones showing us around and tell us all the story of this beautiful villa. The next stop is in Agrigento, Baglio della Luna, is a foresteria. It's originally was a lookout tower that was built to keep an eye out for the invaders, particularly the Saracen and the Arabs trying to invade the fertile land of Sicily. There's many of these towers, and they will communicate by lighting fires, and they can see each other's lighting a fire and pass on the message to the inland. The farmhouse was then restructured and restored in the 16th century by an architect from Florence, by all places. Following to that, we move to the west of the island in the Trapani area. The Relais Antiche Saline is a marvelous location. It's basically right in the middle of the salt flats. In fact, the hotel itself used to be a farmhouse where the people working collecting the salt were staying. Right next to it, there's also the Museum of Salt and the slow food procedure of the salt. Salt is a very important part of this area. well, and life in general back in the day when salt wasn't as available as it is now. In fact, the word salary itself comes from the word sale, which is salt in Italian, because back in the day they used to actually pay workers in salt. It was such a important commodity. Next up is Palermo. Palermo is a rugged city that with a lot of history, and Palazzo Brunaccini has its own history as well. Brunaccini is actually a Tuscan surname. There's a family that made the fortune selling hats in Florence, so then moved on to Sicily. The daughter, Principessa Lucrezia Brunaccini, was actually involved in a scandal, or what they call a scandal back in the day, which is obviously it was as simple as falling pregnant and not being married. So in this building, then she set up a sort of reclusorio, we call it, and she was helping out all the younger ladies that had the similar fate, were kicked out of their bourgeois family, and were given a chance and educate them and pretty much rescue them. One more stop is in Salina on the Aeolian Islands, a beautiful, beautiful spot. The Locanda del Postino is actually set in town of Pollara, in which used to be at the bottom of a volcano. Obviously, now part of the volcano collapsed, and as you can tell on the photo on the left-hand side, that's what's left. This beautiful spot is actually run by a gorgeous family, which been adopted. Obviously, I look like I'm the dad, but they're absolutely beautiful. I can't wait to go back there. The views are incredible. You can tell next to my head on the right-hand side, that's Filicudi, and you can see the sunset between Filicudi and Alicudi, two of the Ionian Islands. The last stop, but not the least, it's Taormina, a popular spot since well, the beginning of the 18th century, really, for holiday makers. The Hotel Villa Schule is a very special hotel in Taormina. It's actually the oldest running hotel owned by a single family. We're now hitting the fourth generation. Obviously, I can tell by the name, the family is actually of German origins, and with German origin comes German efficiency and service, but with a typical Sicilian hospitality, and also making sure that you never go hungry, which is never going to happen in the 16 days. A real brief overlook on Sicily history. Obviously, I'm not going to give you a full lecture. It will take hours and hours. But as you can tell by the various invasion, a lot of civilizations around the Mediterranean all had a pick at Sicily due to the fertile land, the volcanic soil. So we've gone from the Greeks started up, took over the southern Italian tribes. They already living in the area, and the Phoenicians actually would then later turn Carthaginians and took over the east side of the island, sorry, the west side of the island. Then, of course, we had the Punic Wars between the Carthaginians and the Romans. Then, at the end of the Roman Empire, of Western Roman Empire, the Vandals took over for then the Byzantine regaining control of the island. Then was the turn of the Arabs, who lived alongside the Normans that quite peacefully. That was probably the best time to be in Sicily. The education level was extremely high. Everybody had to be able to speak both Arab and Norman. Then followed the French rule, and with the Napoleon, then the Spanish rules as well. And the Spanish rules are very important because they brought in a richness that the whole south of Italy benefit from. They also brought in a lot of produce from the New World, which then got incorporated in the like all the other invaders brought something that was left on the table and mixed with the local culture and food. Then was time for freeing Italy as Sicily as part of Italy, and then again freed again by the Allies in the Second World War. So food and wine is pretty much part of the culture and the history of Sicily and Italy in general. So there's not one without the other. But when it comes to wine, they have so many different variety. An example right there on the top right-hand corner is the Malvasia from the Aeolian Islands. Below, it's the famous Marsala sweet wine. It was actually invented by ERA, by some British aristocrats, and then developed in many different types. If take join us on this tour, you will actually have the chance of trying different type of Marsala. I had no idea there was like 4 or 5 different types, and all paired with different dishes. Of course, you'll have the chance to try many different types of food, particularly um, a lot of seafood, and but not only. But obviously, being an island in the rich Mediterranean, there's a lot of that. I personally handpicked my restaurants, of course. I've been working in restaurants for big chunk of my life, so I know what's in it. Like the tasty mozzarella behind my head. Um, uh, on the top right-hand corner, actually, is Anna and Ciccio. Anna is actually a friend and family. She was part of the slow food movement, and they got in uh, the um, the official guide of slow food just last time we were there. Then we have Massimo from Mazzamemi, an incredible experience in his restaurant. He's such a passionate guy to come up with incredible stuff. Like they're making some sort of mousse of olive oil by whiskering olive oil like for 2 weeks every 3 or 4 hours, just beyond imagination what they come up with. There is Pepe as well, also a ambassador for the slow food. And I have plenty others, of course, I couldn't fit it all in. So I hope among them is Andrea, another ambassador of the slow food movement, and also a bit of a chef, TV chef before TV chef were a thing. Uh, but it's not about the fancy food. There's also the street food, which is just as important. And you'll come across sorts of panelle, pizza fritta, and of course the number one controversial dish, street food dish, which is the arancini or arancine, depending which are they are and who you talk to. Because in Palermo they're female, and in Catania they're male. In Palermo they're round. In Catania they have a point like the Etna. So they we might laugh about it, but Sicilian take these things very seriously. So if you have to get the right gender for this of the arancini, depending on which side of the islands you are. Cooking with Alessia is another incredible experience that I think a lot of our clients already treasured, as you can tell by those happy faces. She taught us how to do arancine because we're in Catania area. Um, she's actually the granddaughter of the fishermonger at the market of Ortigia, which we'll be visiting with her husband, who's a food um, journalist that actually wrote for the slow food movement as well. So definitely the two of them have an inside knowledge of exactly what I'm looking for in my tours. As well as Syracuse, we'll be visiting Ballarò Market in Palermo. It's not just a market, it's a theater, it's a painting, it's a concert. All the Sicilian vendors that not just scream but also sing in dialect, trying to sell their produce. Don't ask me to translate because I have no idea what they're saying, as I'm from Tuscany, and these guys are speaking strict Sicilian um, dialect, which is probably, you know, again, just like the food, it's got a mix of, Greek and Arabic and Byzantine, anything that's been left behind. We'll visit some of the producers that I'm really close to my heart, but the first photo you can see, it's an espresso made with pistachio. So we'll be visiting the town of Bronte, which is they got everything made with pistachio, which is absolute tasty, delicious stuff. Um, we'll be visiting in Erice, Pasticceria Grammatico, which is a lady that was orphaned, picked up by the nuns, and then spending time in the monastery, she picked up all the secrets of the nuns making tasty treats. Then on the right of that, you can see the chocolate working in Modica. As I said, under the Spanish rule, the Spanish brought in the chocolate from South America, and here in Sicily, I developed some of the best chocolate making with big grains of sugar. So it's not the chocolate that we all used to. Had big chunks of sugar, and it's made a cold press. Right there below, depending on what day we'll be visiting, we should have the chance to see them making fresh ricotta cheese and even have warm ricotta in the morning, which is with a glass of wine, 10 o'clock, because that's how they roll. We'll have the chance to visit three slow food procedure. One, as I mentioned before, is the salt in Trapani. The other one is the capers in Salina Island with Salvatore will show us all the things he does with capers rather. And then the other one is with Andrea. We'll be visiting the Black Pig slow food procedure. The Black Pig is been basically there since the Roman times, and they still follow some of the curing meat process. It's very different from the normal pigs, as it's more resistant. It roams free and a bit more similar to a wild boar than a pig, which is basically a lot lean flavor, but more gamey as taste. We, of course, you get to visit two volcanoes, two of the most active volcanoes in Europe. The one, Stromboli, of course, on a visit from Salina on a boat trip for the day. With a bit of luck, we'll get to see the Sciarra, which Sciarra is basically the volcano eruption on one side of the island, which is pretty much constant, um, obviously from a safe distance. Then on the next to last day, we'll be in this lunar um, looking surrounding on top of Etna. We're not obviously going to go on top of Etna. We're just going to go up with a cable car to the first refuge where we can actually see, hopefully, most of Sicily from there. As we were lucky enough in the last trip, we got a totally blue skies, which is very hard to get. So I can't promise you when I get to see those views. Now, the Baroque Triangle is basically the based by three. The main town is Noto, Ragusa, and Modica. They're called Baroque Triangle because in 1693 the area was pretty much annihilated by earthquake, and under the Spanish rule, they rebuilt the whole three towns and in the Baroque style, which is obviously the current style of the time. Now, obviously, I'm from Florence, so I saw plenty of cathedral in my own days, but two in particular in Sicily are really my favorite. One is the one in Syracuse, which you'll see the photo on the left-hand side. The exciting bit is obviously that's been built on the site of a Greek temple. So you can still see the columns inside the church. And on the right-hand side, you can see the baptismal fount, which is actually was from the Greeks. Though obviously not for baptism, but that's where they were mixing the wine for the parties, and they've all been drinking from there. Obviously, the wine was a bit different from what is today. It was mostly watered down, not as great fermentation as today, probably less headaches though, so not all bad. And the other cathedral is the one in Monreale, which is the ones in the middle. It is beautiful, again, similar to the one in Syracuse, has been used different purposes. Started as a cathedral, then the Arabs turned into a mosque. In fact, on the outside, it looks like a mosque. And then the Byzantine obviously turned it back into a Byzantine church with the opulence of gold and even the tomb of Roger the Second inside. Another passion of mine is ancient history. We'll be visiting two of the most important sites on the Mediterranean, really. One of them, of course, is the one on the right, which is the Agrigento Valley of the Temple. It is one of the most famous. Unfortunately, the background of this beautiful park is not amazing because there's raffinery on one side and the ugly town of Agrigento on the other, but still an absolutely beautiful spot to visit. In fact, that's the Temple of the Concordia, which is actually the model for the logo of the UNESCO Heritage Site. On the left-hand side instead is the very extended site of Selinunte Archaeological Park. They're still finding stuff like today. There's such extended park that we don't have the resources to find out. Unfortunately, a lot of the stuff is being taken over during the 50s and 60s when people used to go and help themselves to a lot of the ruins. But still, one of the most extended site. The city actually only lasted 2 centuries before totally disappearing. I won't tell you anymore. If you want to know more, you have to come with me to Sicily. But let's not forget the Romans. The Romans, Villa Romana del Casale up in Piazza Armerina. It's an incredible spot for, I never seen this extent of mosaics in any of the places that I visited around the Mediterranean. I've been in Greece, I've been even in Libya, and I've saw amazing mosaics, but the extent of and how well preserved these mosaics are incredible. It really blew my mind. I didn't expect that at all. The Aeolian Islands. The Aeolian Islands, are about 7 islands. They look at Australia as the eighth Aeolian Island. That is because in the early 1900s, due particularly to a disease that hit the grapes, about two-thirds of the inhabitants have to leave the islands. A big chunk came to Australia, and then of course also Argentina, the US, and Canada. So there's pretty much between the first and second immigration, about the first immigration was about 15,000 people left, and the second about 30,000. So basically, there's double the residents of the islands here in Australia than actually there. In fact, so much so that we will be able to visit a museum of immigration. That is, you'll find a lot of stuff that have been sent from immigrants here in Australia. So you'll have the old bags, letters, all sorts of parts of a story that obviously wasn't a happy story, but end up in the end for the best because most of them became pretty famous and popular in Australia, in the US, and so on. So many great stories there. Speaking to Antonio, the one of the driver, he knows everything. Like I don't have the time to get into it now, but I can talk for hours about it. It's so much fun. And yeah, so this is pretty much a really rough idea of what I put together. So let me show you Sicily. I am extremely excited about running it, but of course, this year we've been a bit slow on the bookings. We need a minimum of 3 people. We only go a maximum of 10. We don't currently have any bookings, so we will need at least 3 people by the end of next week, really. After that, I will go on request basis because I will have to release the rooms. So we've got 2 single supplements available, one upgrade available. So basically, that will give you the best rooms on each hotels along the way. Price per person is 12,499, and that's land only. Obviously, flights a separate matter as not many people go to all the way there for 16 days. So a lot of people go and visit family in the UK, in Italy. So obviously we leave that flexibility for people that want to do other stuff. We can definitely help you with the flights though. What are we different? Well, it's personally designed by me and run it by me. So obviously I know from A to B what can we do and what we can't. I got flexibility on the itinerary based on your interest, obviously within reason. I had somebody passionate about Targa Florio, so like a racetrack that was in basically normal roads around Palermo, and I organized for him to visit the museum of this race. So within reason, we can squeeze in if you have any special interest. Obviously, we're not working on volume. I don't have huge amount of these for the moment, and I think that is the positive thing because, as I said, I worked in tour operators, and the bigger you get, the harder it gets to maintain the quality and to be in touch with what's going on the ground. I designed this to be as immersive as possible. So this is as good as it gets for 16 days. You can put anything anymore. Every time that I run the tour and I'll come across Sicilians, it's like, oh, why don't you bring him here? Why don't you bring him there? It's like, guys, I only have 16 days. I don't have a month. Um, you have to draw a line somewhere. I started was at 10 days and now we got to 16. And every year seems to be getting longer and longer. Um, Obviously, we're looking at production from food, from the production to the table. So pretty interesting. 2 volcanoes. And again, culture, history, and food are one thing in Italy, and it's a very serious matter. I'm just giving you a quick rundown because I got 2 minutes left. My other current tour, which will have the first departure in September, it's Puglia. Pretty much again, same sort of ethos, same sort of idea. We're actually visiting 3 regions, which is Puglia with Bari is Matera, which is Basilicata, and one of the smallest regions in Italy called Molise. It's a bit of a running joke that Molise doesn't exist because nobody knows where it is, but it's got some interesting spots there too. So this runs from the 23rd of September to the 8th of October. Only got 6 spots left, so if you're interested, you better say it now. Um, this is a very quick overlook on what's there to see. I go start with Matera. Obviously, we base ourselves for 4 days there and visit all there is to see in the region of Basilicata, the abandoned town of Krakow, where they shot a few famous movies. Um, Food is obviously yet important part of it, like caciocavallo, so the cheese from Podolico, from the area. Different parts of the region have slight different variations of it. For this one, we partner with Cesarine. Cesarine is a slow food community of ladies that open their homes, and we can go to having cooking classes in private homes, and they also run market tours. So again, extremely happy and excited to start this collaboration with them. Altamura, as you can tell there, it's famous for the bread, and there's me eating it. Absolutely gorgeous little town. You're gonna love that. Right there below, it's just Santa Cesarea Terme, which is pretty much the heel of the heel of Puglia. An absolutely stunning location, a beautiful hotel. Can't wait to go and stay there. Then again, Lecce, Otranto, going up the hill, Gallipoli, which is not obviously the one in Turkey, but we have another name for it. Is on the Ionian coast. We get to try the Primitivo, and there's a famous Primitivo museum. The Primitivo is a pretty strong red wine from the area. Everybody knows the Trulli in Alberobello. We get to stay in a Trullo. This is a little bit different from the other type of accommodation because it is not going to be a hotel. But Alberobello is a small town, so everybody will have their own Trullo, and we're all gonna gather around and have dinner together. It's all a walkable. It's actually the best because generally during the day is extremely busy with day trippers, but nighttime things calm down and the whole town lights up. Ostuni, the white town. There are plenty of little towns like that in Puglia, well worth a visit. Castellana Cave, okay, underground, one of the largest underground cave system in Europe. Um, Big surprise for me, Trani. I really fell in love with the spot. Gorgeous little town. We have a hotel right looking over the marina, just for us. Literally, we blocked the whole hotel. Then Castel del Monte, another great location, present in many movies as well. A Norman castle. Um, There'll be no, a lot of Norman castles and fortresses in this area. Absolutely love the Galgano. Galgano is basically is the spur of the boot, pretty much, and is a natural, mostly natural park reserve. You can see the photo of the Trabucchi there in the middle. The Trabucchi is a platform they use for fishing, but I found this gorgeous restaurant where they just fish the food and put it on your plate. Obviously, sometimes they cook it as well. We get to Bari. In Bari, we'll get to visit Santa Claus. Well, not Santa Claus, but Saint Nicholas, because allegedly his bones are buried in the cathedral there. And one of the highlights, we get to go on the Pastagrani Road. There's basically a little street with all the ladies sit at the front of the house on table making fresh pasta by hand, and we'll get to try, get to buy, get to eat it. You get to speak to the ladies, take some selfies. They love it. Then we move on to the Molise region. Again, the least known region in Italy, but so many little beautiful gems to discover there. I'm really excited about this, promoting an area where not many people go to. The great thing about it is you get to places like Sefinum, the central photo there on the top. It's an incredible Roman site and totally not very known. So therefore, you'll get you'll get there and probably hardly any tourists at all, which is unusual these days in Italy. Um, Lastly, another very exciting visit for me is Agnone, the where you see the bells. Agnone is basically these guys have been it's a foundry and making bells since 1060 AD. And they are the only ones that are allowed to use the Pope symbol on their bells. So there's actually they even delivered some bells here in Hunter Valley a few years ago, or in Ireland, or pretty much around the world. They have to go with the bell because they have to set it up and make sure everything that rings the way they should. And lastly, Pietrabondante is a pre-Roman settlement up on the mountains near Agnone. We'll also have some time to go in Busso to go and look for truffles, one of my passions. And that's pretty much it. If you want more information, of course, you can drop me an email. If you'd like to have a look in a bit more in depth in the itinerary is on our website, backtrack.com.au. Feel free to give me a call in office hours, of course. If you have any questions, you can also pop a question in the chat right there. So thank you very much for your time. Sorry, I've gone a bit 5 minutes over the due time, but I'm Irish Italian and I can stick telling stories within a restricted amount of time. So grazie mille and buona serata. Thank you.
Excellent timing, Matt. I need a drink and my glass is empty.